Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. And I'm so excited about my guest tonight, Stephen LaChance. I am so honored to have him on the show tonight. Now, Stephen is the author of 4 books, The Uninvited, Crazy, Blessed Are the Wicked, and he is currently working on his next book, Where the Devil Played, for release in 2016. Stephen was also featured on Children of the Grave and Possessed. In 2001, Stephen LaChance and his children moved to a house in Union, Missouri. He had no idea what he was getting into or what horrible things were about to happen to his family. The house itself tells the horrible stories of apparitions, demonic oppression, animal death, and brutality, which inspired Stephen to write his book, The Uninvited. These events were featured on A Haunting, and the episode was The Fear House. So everyone, please, let's welcome Stephen to the show. Stephen, thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. We finally made it to the day.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Now, everybody, now, Stephen, listen, everybody, it's 102 degrees here, and my air conditioner decided not to work. So, can you hear my little fan that's going?
No, I can't hear it. I think it sounds pretty good, actually.
All right, and the viewers, can you guys, can you hear my fan? Is that annoying to anybody? Let me know if you can hear my fan. If it does, I'll turn it off. All right, well, I guess they're not saying anything. All right, so Stephen, I want to hear your story from the very beginning. And I want you to start with how you got into this house. What happened?
Well, it was in 2001. I was a single dad. I had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. And we were living in an apartment. And we had enough space. It was a big apartment and everything. But the problem was when we would, the kids would want to go outside to play, the only place that we had was a balcony which overlooked a parking lot. And I didn't want them playing in the street or in a parking lot. And they were getting to the age where they really needed to do some, have more of a normal child life in that way. So I went looking for a house. And I found this house in Union, Missouri. It was a rental, by the way. The advertisement was kind of strange. And by the way, it was always advertised this way to everybody that's ever lived in the house. It's the right house for the right price for the right family. And so I was like, okay. So I called it and I talked to the landlord, and I was supposed to go there and meet him and take a look at the house. And it turned out to be it was like an open house type thing where a lot of people were there. So I felt the need because I really wanted the house for some reason. And the thing is, I look back at it now, and it kind of reminded me of my grandmother's house from when I was a boy. And of course, so I was like, this would be the perfect place to raise children.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I wrote out a check right that day, which is not like me, by the way, because I'm a little bit more, I think things through a little bit better than that. But anyway, so we were going to move into the house, and on May 18th, 2001, we moved into the house. First thing that happened when we were moving in, we had the truck out front. We were unpacking the truck, and a car drove by, and they rolled down the windows, and somebody from inside the car goes, "We hope you get along well here."
And what did you ask them? What do you mean by that?
No, because they drove away just as quickly as they did it.
Oh my.
And my thing is, you got to step back and think, I wasn't a paranormal person at all, or, this was, my whole goal in life was to raise kids at that point, and that was my focus. So my thing was nice neighbors. I just kind of justified it as like they were welcoming us to the neighborhood. My daughter, though, kind of gave me a strange look. She didn't take it that way. And so lights on. I'm not talking about just a few. I'm talking about every light, including the closet lights. And so I talked to my dad one day, and I said, every time I come home, all the lights are on in the house. And he said, well, when you kids were little, he goes, every time you walk past the light switch, you flipped it. He goes, I'll tell you what you do. Put the kids in the car, and then before you leave the house, go through the whole house and make sure all the lights are on. So I did that. I put the kids in the car, and I went through the house. All the lights were on. Came home that night, and every light in the house was on again.
Oh, my goodness.
I thought that maybe somebody was breaking in. That's the first thing you jump to. So I called the landlord, and I said, have you been in the house? Well, no, I need 24 hours notice before I can come in or send anybody else in. I said, well, I'm coming home and finding all the lights on. Well, it wasn't us. And so, and I had searched the house completely, top to bottom, and I could find nothing. So, I didn't know what to think about that. Next thing I remember, too, we had, you would be standing, and the best way I can describe this to you is it felt like energy that would start inside you and work its way out. And it was an electrical charge-like thing. I noticed that was going on, so I thought I had electrical problems. The air conditioning, it would get really hot in there at some point, but then it would turn around and almost immediately get very cold. Or some areas would be cold and some areas would be hot, and they would switch at different times, so I thought I had air conditioning problems. So my dad, who is that kind of person, and he understands construction and everything, came in to look at the house, and he said there was nothing wrong. The only thing he could find was down in the basement, the electric box, the breaker box, didn't have a cover on it. That was it. He was like, everything else is fine. But while he was there, that electrical charge hit him as well.
And Stephen,
we were sitting on the couch, and I looked over and saw tears coming down his face.
Oh my gosh! And you weren't into the paranormal at all at that time.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't at all. As a matter of fact, I kept trying to find other reasons for the things that were happening. I had a picture of angels I was trying to hang on the wall, but I couldn't get to hang on the wall. And the first thing I thought was, well, it's probably because the nail had come out. But the nail was in the wall at a nice angle, solid, and had moved. And they actually, I kept hanging it and walking away, and it would drop to the floor. The last time I did it, as I walked away, I felt it, a whoosh of air as it flew at me, and it hit me in the middle of the calf.
Oh my God!
As I was walking away, and I'm thinking, well, this is weird, but
how old was that? How old? Yeah.
I noticed is that.
How old was the house?
The house was built in 1936.
Oh, I thought it was older than that.
No, but here's the thing. And I didn't know this till much later. You almost have to read the sequel to The Uninvited, Blessed or the Wicked to get this part of it, because the research part of it came much later. But the house was actually built where the slave quarters were this captain. His name was Captain John T. Crow, which is different in the book, but you kind of disguise names in books. But what it was is he was the head of the 1st Missouri Militia, well-known guy, by the way. And his slave quarters were right there. And now the thing is that they had a southern belief, and if anybody's ever been to Louisiana or around that area, a lot of times when you see a newer structure, they leave one wall of the foundation from the original structure. And that's supposed to keep the spirits there and at bay and good luck and stuff. Well, so there was one wall in the basement that was made of a completely different substance than everything else, and that was that wall. And that was kept from the time of the slave quarters.
So that house has one original. Well, what happened to the original house?
The original house, it was gone. Nobody ever said. I don't think I ever found anything about what had happened to it. The land changed hands a couple times. As a matter of fact, the first governor of Oklahoma, whose name A.G. Say, actually bought the property from the captain at one point. So, we had, and this is the thing that's really strange about this, too, when you get into the history, is this house was, in this land, these people were well known. These people were, when you pull
Okay. So go ahead and tell us continue with your story.
Well, the next thing we noticed is that no one was walking in front of the house. They would literally walk to the property line and then cross the street. Nobody would walk directly in front of it.
Oh my God, and you saw people do that?
My daughter was the one that came in at first and said, "You got to come see this." And I was like, "What?" And she was kind of giggling because they were making a game out of it. And I sat down on the porch and I would watch. She goes, "Watch." And I watched the first person come down. They crossed the street. And I'm like, "Well, they crossed the street." She goes, "But Daddy," she goes, "everybody crosses the street." And I sat there and watched her, and, being summer and stuff, people were out,
Yeah.
and people would cross the street. And another thing that was really strange is nobody would look at us or say anything to us. I would wave and people would look the other way.
No way.
Yeah, and it felt like you didn't feel welcome. I'm going to tell you that much. I mean, it just, you could tell that something was up. But so that was, that's how it started, and it really started targeting the kids right away. My youngest son, we were doing lawn, yard work, mowing the lawn, that sort of thing, and I sent him in to get a garden hose, so we could spray off the sidewalks. And I heard him screaming from inside the house, and I thought he got hurt. I mean, that's the kind of scream, that was coming out of him. And I ran in the house, and I found him, and he was standing in the kitchen floor. He was standing in a puddle of urine, and he was white, and he was shaking. I mean, this kid, something scared the hell out of him. I mean, he was really, really shook up. So I asked him what was wrong, and he said that something had chased him up from the basement upstairs. And as a parent at that point, I thought to myself, okay, the proverbial basement monster. As children, we're all afraid of something. It's it's part of development, really. And so I thought this was his. This was going to be his. He never really had to deal, because he was like 3 years old the last time we had a basement. So he, this is something kind of new to him, and I thought, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be. So I told him, I said, well, I'm sure it's your imagination. I said, let's go downstairs, and I'll show you that there's nothing there. And he refused to go downstairs with me, so I went and did the dad thing, where I'm opening the door, and then I stomp down the basement steps. I'm going down the steps, that sort of thing. And I would tell, and I'd look around, and there's nothing in this corner, nothing here, nothing there. But the truth of the matter was, I wasn't seeing anything. There was nothing that I was seeing there. But from that moment on, every time he was out of arm's reach, I would find him shaken and scared, just like I had found him that day.
Oh, the poor thing.
It was continual. And then the other two children started with their experiences. So the boys were already sleeping with me anyway, because I was ordering their beds because they needed new beds. So they were sleeping in my bed until their new beds arrived. I was asleep one night, and I had the boys with me, and my daughter comes downstairs, and she says, Dad, she goes, there's boxes moving around upstairs, there's the sound of people talking, and she goes, the closet door keeps opening, and I keep closing, it keeps opening, back up. And she goes, I can't sleep up there, I'm scared. And, in that point, she goes, well, can I sleep with you? So I have all three kids in the same bed at that point with me. And I'm thinking, my gosh, what am I doing wrong? I thought, everything that I thought had nothing to do with the paranormal. I'm thinking, maybe the move was too much for him. Of course, obviously, since I was a single parent, there was a divorce involved in there at one point. Maybe their expectation of, what this was going to be like, it didn't meet up to their expectation. I went through everything. I mean, I read every book about child rearing you could ever read,
Oh.
And so, I know. So I'm going down the whole list of things. And I had no idea. I really did not have any idea what could be going on here. And I was a corporate trainer at that time for Hallmark. And I would leave town, and sometimes I would leave town for a week, sometimes it'd be a couple weeks. And they would stay with my mom and dad, who didn't live too far. But the night before I would leave on the trip, I would always, turn off the TV, the video games, all of that sort of thing. table in front of me. The kids' backs were the kids were facing me. Their back was to the other room. They were getting the board ready and stuff. And I looked up, and I could see into the family room, and I could see the kitchen doorway.
Uh-huh.
And when I looked up, I saw a black, smoky figure of a man standing in the kitchen doorway. And I immediately looked back down. You know, your belief system starts crashing almost immediately in this case. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to look back up, and this thing's not going to be here. You know, it's my imagination. You know, you try to talk yourself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked back up, and not only was it still there, but it moved into the room in front of me, and it dissipated away. So at that point, I was like, I got to get out of here, and I got to wrap my mind around what just happened, because the whole realization of, okay, so we got something weird going on here, and this is what's happening to the kids, and that sort of thing. So I hit my car keys were on the table in front of me, and my daughter, she's 27 now, and we were talking about it, you know, not too long ago, and she was saying, Dad, I knew there was something wrong because I could see your right hand shaking. You know, and I was trying to get them up, and I told you, it's funny because I looked at him and I said, well, you know, let's go get a soda and go to Grandma's house. And it looks like 9:30 at night, and I'm doing this. And, you know, they're looking at me, and of course the boys are wanting to play the game and stuff. But, you know, in my mind, and the thought went through, and this is the funny thing, I didn't want to be like the people in the movies that run screaming out of their house in the middle of the night.
Yes.
You know? And so, we were going to do this with a little bit of class.
I'm glad you can laugh about this. I'm really glad you can laugh about this now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it took a long time, though. It took a long time, but that thought I can remember having it. It was just, I wanted to do it with some kind of dignity. And so it was an old house. We got up, and I went to the front door, and I put the key into the door. And when I went to turn the key, that was when the house screamed for the first time. And it was a man scream. The best way I can describe it to you is to think it's somebody that's being hurt in probably the most torturous way possible. The kids heard it at the same time that I heard it. The dogs in the neighborhood started barking at the same time. It was coming from inside the house. At that point, all dignity went away. we were on the run.
The house screamed.
It screamed. It screamed. As a matter of fact, later on, I could tell you that sometimes it would be a man's voice screaming. Sometimes you would hear a woman. And the most disturbing one, and my father was actually present when this happened one time, was a little girl. It sounded like a little girl screaming.
So, well, Stephen, you mean, so what kind of a scream was it? Was it a tormented scream? Was it like they were maybe trying to get your attention? Can you kind of describe what kind of?
It was tormented. It was tormented or tortured.
Oh.
The male scream especially seemed like it was almost a scream of extreme pain. It's probably the best definition you can get on it. But it was loud. I mean, it was loud. And it scared. It scared us. I mean, quite a bit actually.
I get, and the people outside heard this as well.
The dogs in the neighborhood, none of the neighbors reacted. Now, this is funny because the man that lived across the street, he had called me like years later, and I actually talked to him at that point. And I was kind of, he called me because he moved from there to a haunted house himself.
Oh.
And he was calling me at this point to ask me for help. And I felt a little indignant at first. It's like, well, and I started having the conversation with him. Well, didn't you hear the screams? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I heard the screams. He goes, I see the smoky black figure in the windows and moving through the house. He goes, I see it outside. He goes, everything that you had go on, he goes, I knew was going to happen. He goes, but the difference of the matter is, I knew you weren't going to be there for very long, and I was going to have to live there. He says, so I would keep I just didn't look over there, and I would ignore what was going on.
Oh my
And
God!
I kind of got that. I kind of got it, and I understood. And I kind of wonder if that was what the other neighbors were doing at that point. There's not much they could do. People were going to come and go no matter what. So their best, effort to deal with it and to be able to live with it was just to turn the other way.
Oh my goodness, that shocks me.
Mm-hmm.
That really does. You guys must have been scared to death. So what did you do after you were hearing that screaming?
Well, so I went to my mom and dad's house, and the kids stayed there, and like I said, I had to go out of town to work. And the whole time I was out of town, I was trying to, to have something like that happen to you and then have to go out of town is even worse. But the whole time I was gone, I was thinking to myself, well, first of all, I had just spent $4,000 on a move. I was a single dad, so what are we going to do here? And I got to admit that the mail thing came out of, I'm not going to be chased out of my home.
Yeah.
Then I tried to justify to myself that, it was a one-time thing. It won't happen again. And I did. So by the time my plane landed on Friday night, I went and got the kids and I went back because we had nowhere else to go. I mean, and we had been homeless before. When my wife left us, she took all of our bill money, everything, for over 6 months and compiled it into a private bank account. She pretty much left us. So, I mean, we had to live with my mom and dad before because of that reason. So, I knew what that was, and I didn't want to go back to that again either. So we kind of used, it's kind of weird in that way because in some ways it kind of used the things we had already been through against us in a way. So we went back on Friday night, and the kids, I remember my youngest son asked me if it was going to be all right, and I told him it was going to. Friday night was good. Saturday night was good. Saturday day was good. The only thing that was strange about Saturday is we went to bed at around 10 o'clock on Saturday night. And I got the kids up to go to Sunday school about 5:30 every Sunday morning. And if you've ever gotten 3 kids to get ready at the same time, it's not an easy thing. So it took a little bit, and they had to be there like at 7:30. So we went to bed at 10 o'clock on that Saturday night, and I woke up, and I looked at the clock, and it said 5:35. And the thing is, I start getting the kids ready. Come on. And the little dot that tells you PM? I looked at the clock and I saw the dot. It wasn't 5:30 a.m., 5:35 a.m. It was 5:35 p.m. We had slept from 10 o'clock Saturday night all the way through that Saturday day, or that Sunday day.
Oh, my God.
Which is really strange when you consider that anybody that has 3 small children, kids just don't do that.
No.
I mean, they should have been up. At least my youngest, Elliot, should have been up tearing up the house. Or eating. He always was eating. So that was strange. But I kind of understand that now. I understand how these things will build energy and how they'll pull from people to build the energy. And I kind of think that was probably what happened. Somebody suggested once we go through some type of hypnosis, and I'm not going to go down that road.
So what would be did you have activity every single day in that house?
Yes.
Every day?
Every day.
Was it always something different, or was it the same thing at the same time?
It was always something different. It was more so. It didn't matter. And I think I sent you a picture of something coming in the doorway during the day.
Was that? Well, let's see. Something that you said there was a thing that liked to be in the window all the time.
Right. There was the one thing that stood in the window all the time. You would mainly see that at night because daytime it's kind of hard to see the window. But there was any time of day it would do something. However, it seemed like the later it got in the day, as soon as it got more dark, it would get more active. But it didn't matter what time of day. I mean, it could do something to you no matter what time of day it was.
Oh, now are you talking about the face?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to show the viewers that.
Yeah, that's a daytime shot. And that was taken on November 26, 2010.
But you know, that image looks like a modern time image. It doesn't look like an old era type image.
Right. Now look at the eyes.
Well, all I see is black.
Yeah, it doesn't have eyes. And you know, what was interesting about that is my youngest son, one of the things that was frightening him, he would describe it to you. And one of the striking features of it was that it didn't have eyes.
Yeah,
I always thought that was strange that photo was like that.
Yeah, because I can clearly see the black hair, the nose, the face, the lips, the chin. But yeah, there is no eyes. That's weird.
And that was kind of typical for that.
How were you able to capture that?
Other people had witnessed as well.
How were you able to capture that picture?
It was just by chance. He was just taking. By this point, that was 2004. At that point, it's a long story, but I ended up going back as an investigator to try to help who was living in the house after I lived there. Well, actually, she was like the third or fourth family after I lived there.
Oh. Now,
and you'll understand that because it followed me, so I was trying to help myself as well.
were you injured in any way? Were you touched? Were you pushed? Anything physical in the house?
No, not during the first part of it. Not during the first section of it. It did, I was going to tell you this part.
Okay.
Sunday night, we went to dinner to my parents. When we got back, the kids were down in the downstairs bedroom playing. Now, there's two doors to that bedroom, and they were both open at that point. One went to the stairway, and the landing to go up to the upstairs, and the other went out to the living room. And both the doors were open. The kids were in their room playing, and my mother had called me, and I was talking to her on the phone. And she was, I don't care how old you are, your mom's still your mom.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, is everything all right? Is everything okay? That sort of thing, just checking on us. And as I'm talking to her, I heard the doors in the house shake. And it wasn't just like one door, it was like a rumble, like shake. All the doors shook. And at first I thought the boys were up running around, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them to cut it out. And then the doors shook again. I told them to cut it out. And every time I would say stop it, the doors would shake a little bit harder. And my mom asked me on the phone, she goes, what's going on? I said, well, the boys are up messing around, I'm sure. And at that point, my daughter was from the bedroom, goes, Dad, I don't know what's going on, what's happening. And that's when both those bedroom doors slammed shut. The house kind of had a rumble to it. I can't explain it other than it was almost like an earthquake. There was a booming noise going on. I could hear something coming down from the upstairs. There was the male voice screaming. I ran to the door into the living room because that was the closest one to me because I was in the family room. And when I tried to open the door wouldn't open. And I could hear my daughter on the other side of the door screaming.
Oh.
And I tried to get in, the door wouldn't open, so I started throwing my body against the door. Now, I'm 6'7", and I'm built like a football player.
Oh, yeah.
And any wooden door I should have been able to bring down. This was like throwing my body against a concrete wall.
Oh.
And as a matter of fact, when it was all over, my whole side was bruised from me trying to get in that door.
Oh, my God.
And I could hear her screaming, and so I just kept throwing my body against the door. I mean, I was to the point of almost to the point of animal trying to get to my child.
Oh, my.
And at one point I screamed, God help me, and that's when the door gave way. The boys were in the bed there in the room. They had been sleeping, obviously, and they were coming to. And I told them to get out, and I told them to run out that door and go to the front door because it was the closest to them. And by the time I got to my daughter, she was in shock. I grabbed her, and I went to run out of the room, and the door that was still closed behind me that was at the landing of those stairs, that door slammed open, and something was behind me, but I never turned around to see what it was.
Oh, my God. Hey,
I ran out of the house with her in my arms.
A viewer is asking, can you ask if you heard any knocks or bangs or anything in threes, like 3 knocks in a row? Was anything done in threes?
Yeah, I know what the viewer's asking, and and now I know that, but I can't remember anything that if it did it 3 or 4 times. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't paying attention to how many times things happened. There were knockings, there was rappings, there was this other thing that would go across the floor upstairs, and my dad always joked, and he said it sounded like an elephant going across the floor, but it was a pounding, and that may have been in 3, because it was pretty loud. It would almost sound, and the best thing I could do, I always thought that maybe it was something that fell over, and I would go upstairs and everything would be fine. But now I know the difference. I can't tell you for sure though. It's just not something I was paying attention to.
So, is there anything else different that you didn't tell us? What has happened to you in that house? Because every day you said everything was different every day.
Yeah, it was just layering on top of each other. It built up to that day, and then the kids obviously never went back. And then here I had this house. We weren't even living in it at that point. And I finally, because the landlord wanted me to sublet it to someone else, and they said, well, I have a cousin, and I said, well, I hope they don't have kids because kids shouldn't be living here. Oh, no, there's no kids. And anyway, so I went, and the day I was moving, I went in and I started packing and I was doing all of that, and the pounding started upstairs again that we just talked about. And I got mad. I got really mad, and I ran to the stairs and I yelled. I was yelling. You got to let me get my stuff out of here, get my kids' things. And if you don't let me do this, I'm going to find a way to make you burn in hell forever.
Oh my goodness!
And it stopped.
No kidding.
No kidding. It stopped, and and I was able to get everything packed up and out of there. And as I was getting ready to leave, a car pulled up out front of the house, and it was the people that were moving in, and the 2 small children came out of the backseat of the car.
Oh no!
And I can remember, I felt so guilty about that for a while. But what do you do at that point? I was lied to. So.
Oh my God!
That's that part of it, but it ended up following us. So.
It followed you.
Mm-hmm.
When you were in the house, you heard screaming and knocking and banging, but did you hear any sentences, any words said to you?
Later, I did. Later, in the later years, when I went back to try to help her and myself, there were things that were said that you would think you would hear, but nothing too drastic. A lot of EVP came out of the house later on too as an investigator, which was crazy that I ended up down that road, but it happened. I couldn't find anybody to help us, so I decided I was going to figure out how to help ourselves, which was a bad move, by the way.
Did you talk?
One night I remember sitting there and I had something come across that said Jesus as it went by, which I understand that now, and you might find that as scary because when it came by and went Jesus, it was really low, and it scared me at the moment. But knowing what I know now, it was probably something that was trying to help us rather than trying to scare us at that point. The demonic would never have uttered that name.
Oh no! I saw a video. I believe it was off of your video. There was a paranormal investigator that you were talking with.
Yeah.
And she said that the house was oppressive, and that people would get pushed down the stairs, and that there would be a smell. Now, what kind of a smell was she referring to?
The people that were being pushed down the stairs could be anybody. And as a matter of fact, the woman that was living there, her grandson was severely injured by being pushed down the stairs by this thing. But the smell, the best way I can describe it to you is take rotten meat, mix it with spoiled
Oh.
And mix death in with that, and then there's what you got. And what was funny is, when she talks about it, and then there would be that smell. And what she's talking about is in the video is that the smell was moving. It would move. You would be standing there in a room, and all of a sudden it would be there. And if you would move away, sometimes it would follow you, sometimes it wouldn't. And then it didn't matter where you were in the house at any given time; it would follow you.
Oh my goodness!
And you would smell it in different areas, but it was a moving smell. It was very strange.
Now that tree. Now she said that she had seen on the outside of the house. There's I guess a big tree. She saw a baby hung by its foot with blood all over, swinging from the tree. Did you ever see that?
I did. And I thought it was me being who I am. I always thought, that was a crazy thought, but it was a thunderstorm one night, and I looked out the window. I was looking in to see, what it was going on, and this was during the investigation days. And I remember looking at the tree, and in the flash of lightning, I saw it hanging there. And it was, but the thing is when you get into the history of what happened there, you find out why that baby was hung in the tree. It was actually hung in its christening gown.
Oh my God. All right, so tell us. So what finally happened? Did you call the landlord again about everything that was going on in the house?
Oh, absolutely. The landlord. The last contact I had with the landlord was in November of 2005. At that point, I had a priest, and as a matter of fact, the priest was even there was an exorcist from the Vatican that was going to come into the house, and they were going to cleanse it. And the landlady was supposed to be working that out. Now, if you read the book, they make the landlady a man. They did that because of the reason why I'm going to tell you. There was an email that I included in the book that was exact what was sent to me. And the last contact I had from the landlord was an email that was telling me that we weren't going to be able to cleanse the house because the house had been rented to a family with small children. And I'll give you the quote from the email. And she goes, I could hear them running around upstairs. I hear their little angel screams. I hope the guardian angel's watching over them tonight.
I saw that. I didn't understand where that was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
And that was the last time, the last contact, really. So it was vindictive. And the funny thing is when you looked at the email, there were certain things in little quotation marks like angel screams and guardian angel.
Oh my gosh. So what? All right. So how do you want to go? All right. So tell us about the history of the house. Now I also have those pictures that you sent me, and I guess that was from when you went back for your investigations.
Right.
All right.
That was later on.
Okay. So
what we were trying to do is we were trying to get help from not necessarily paranormal investigators at that point. Because we had talked to Lorraine Warren, and Lorraine Warren wanted us to turn to the church at that point, and that's what we were doing. So we were trying to get something to take to the church, and what you see there is the stuff that we were able to get for that. But the history came much later. I didn't get the history to the house till it was about 2010 when I got the full history. I kind of knew and heard inklings about it, but I wasn't sure until one of the captain's family members sat down with us one day. And what had happened, and I'll just give you the story, was that the captain's wife, Minerva, who I sent you pictures of the gravestone.
yeah.
Minerva became pregnant, and when she had the baby was obviously not the captain's. It was a mixed child. She had been sleeping with one of the servants because this was after the war and stuff, but she had been sleeping with one of the servants. So what the captain did was, that's the baby you see hanging in the tree. had Minerva. He tried to get Minerva to tell him who the servant was that she, you know, became pregnant by, and she wouldn't tell him. So he had the doctor insert wire between her ribs and puncture both her lungs. And I imagine her death probably looked like pneumonia or consumption in that way. And then he lined up all the male servants that could have possibly been a culprit, and he shot them all.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
And that is what that town is hiding, and they've been trying to hide it for years. That is also why the captain owned, half the town came from the captain's land. This is the founder of the town, and you'll never find a statue or anything commemorating him in that town.
Also, Stephen, when I was watching your video, that paranormal investigator also said that whoever was, the house caused groups of people to deteriorate within 6 months. She said there were horrible mental issues and marital problems.
And money problems, too. Everybody turned on everybody. Like rabid dogs, almost. I mean, I've never, and she says it, too. I mean, you've never seen anything quite like it. And I mean, we're talking people that became pretty close friends. All of a sudden, we're hating and hurting each other.
Now, are these paranormal? Is this a group of paranormal investigators?
At that point, we had come together in sort of a group. It was trial by fire, I guess, because we were in the process of trying to figure this out. You know, we had these other people that were trying to help us too.
And so all those people fell apart.
Yeah, we fell completely apart.
But that didn't happen to you, and you lived in the house.
It was a lot of the anger was directed at the people that had lived in the house. That's, it was strange. It was really strange in that way. But people were taking things home with them, they were having paranormal activity happen in their houses. Waking up in the middle of the night with shadow figures standing over them. Somebody was thrown against the wall in the middle of the night.
After investigating,
things going on.
And that was after investigating that house.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh boy, that is really. So what's going on with that house today? How could that house still be standing? How could they let anybody in that house?
Well, the thing is you have a landlord that kept renting it and renting it and renting it. The family that is living there today, I understand, has been living there for a few years now. They're the first family, though, however, that has been able to live there for any extended period of time. So.
And why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, really, I hope that maybe some of the stuff, maybe some of the prayers, and we had one blessing done that wasn't done very well. It didn't work. It didn't seem to work, but maybe some of that stuff worked in the long run. I can only hope that. What's funny about that is I hope something worked. I hope, through all of the trial and pain and everything that we went through, that something good came out of it in the end.
Now, what about your paranormal investigating I think you went back, in 2005?
In 2004.
Oh, in 2004.
2004. That was weird because it's not like, if you ever watch Fear House, I always think it's funny because they show me knock on the door of the house and the lady answers the door and I say, well, your house is on it. It didn't happen like that at all. The house was supposed to have been turned into a dog kennel. And so I had a friend that said, well, I want to take pictures of it. Can I take pictures of it? I'm like, well, yeah, just don't bother anybody. And so she went to take pictures of it, and she called me after she was there. And she said, well, I got lost, and I didn't know where I was going, So I stopped to ask a lady, and she stopped to ask Helen, who lived in the house at that time, I hear there's a haunted house in this neighborhood. Do you know which one it is? And Helen goes, well, you're talking about my house.
Oh.
And that's how I met her. And so my friend gave her my number, and she called me she had a lot of the same things going on that we had, except for the thing with her grandson was thrown down the stairs.
Oh, and
And then there was an instance where she went upstairs to show her granddaughter the new kid they just got, and it was laying there dead with its back broken.
Say that again?
The cat was laying in the floor with its back broken.
Oh, the cat.
It was a kitten.
Oh my God.
It didn't like animals, and I was glad we didn't have animals when we lived there. There were 2 dogs that just completely disappeared that was never found dead. They were in the house, locked in the house at night, and the next day they were just completely gone.
Oh.
2 puppies. They did try to breed dogs there at one point, and they had to quit that because all of the puppies would be stillborn every time.
Oh my God. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah,
Okay, now with you knowing the background of the land, and why do you think that is? Why do they want to harm animals?
I have no clue. I have no clue why the animals reacted so badly. I really don't. It's just, in my opinion, I just think it's just a bad place. There's just places that we probably shouldn't be, and that's probably one of them.
Oh my God. When you went back to do your paranormal investigation, was anybody living in the house at that time? Was it vacant?
Helen and her family were living in
okay.
it. And she took a little bit of heat from people on that because they were like, well, why did she move? They literally had nowhere else to go. They could not afford to get out of there. They had nowhere else to go. They had fallen on some hardship at the same time, which if you've ever dealt with this type of thing, that's a typical thing to happen to people going through this type of thing. So she was kind of stuck. And it wasn't until much later on they were able to get her out, but things went really, really bad before that happened. I mean, first of all, and I need to state this, for people listening, you never want to investigate your own haunting. Not a good idea. Actually, it's probably one of the worst ideas that I have ever had. But it was a mistake. And we paid a price for that. We paid huge prices for that. And on Halloween of 2005, there was a knock on whether it was daytime. There was a knock on the door, and I looked out the front window to see who it was, and it was Helen, and I saw her standing there, and I saw her have something behind her back, and she started pounding on the door at that point, and she was screaming at me, and she was yelling, well, if you ever read the Uninvited, it's exactly what she was yelling. It's pretty obscene. And I was thinking, well, I gotta calm her down, something's up, because I knew the police would be coming. And so I went to the door, and I went to open the door, and at this point I had cats in my house, 2 cats, and we had got those after we moved, much after we moved. But I looked down, and both the cats were hissing at the door, and I didn't open the door. And a moment later, she walked away, and I guess she maybe was gone for a couple minutes, and the phone rang, and it was her daughter, and she said, don't answer the door. My mom comes there. She's got the gun, and she says she's coming to shoot you in the head.
Oh my God.
And the thing is that there was something sitting on her bedside for weeks. And she told me about this, and I kind of dismissed it a little bit. But she was never afraid of it, and she said she never knew what it was saying to her. But it became quite clear that it was planning, and it was planting ideas in her mind. And the thing is that day the plan was to on that Halloween she was supposed to shoot me in the head.
Oh my.
And then she was going to go hang herself in the basement.
Oh my God. Oh, Stephen. Oh my God. Can we talk a little bit about the pictures that you sent me, because I'm really curious. You sent me a picture. Where did you capture this? John T. Crow. You captured him. Where did you capture that picture?
That was taken at the basement. It was taken from the
off of the
and you
window.
can see they're almost identical in some ways.
Yes. And what about the other one? The dark figure, and you claim that it's a general. Oh God, I can't read his name. It looks like a captain, a general, a Civil War general.
That would be the captain again.
Right.
Yeah. The captain was, he started the first Missouri militia in the Civil War.
Okay. And where did you capture that image?
Which one is it? Is it a fiery kind of image?
Oh no, not the fire one, the black image.
Oh, the black image from upstairs?
Yeah.
That was the upstairs window. He would stand and that's when we were talking about the neighbor would talk about the black figure in the window.
Yes.
You would oftentimes catch that standing in the upstairs window watching out.
Oh my God. Okay, now what about this fiery? What the heck is that?
That is considered to be that photo has been analyzed and analyzed and analyzed. When that photo was taken, the only thing that was there was the car, because there was a city. It was like a city building back there for storage. None of what you see other than that car was there. None of that fire or the people or anything. It's considered to be what was captured was the opening of the portal. And if you look to the far right of the photo, you can see them coming into the photo, coming in and walking down, and they're joining the gathering of people down in the middle. And if you look up right from that gathering, you'll see a cross shape and somebody hanging on what appears to be a cross. Now, when I showed it to the priest for the first time, they took one look at it, turned it over, pushed it back at me, and said, "That's a mockery of the crucifixion. I don't want to look at it."
Really? I find it extremely interesting. It's a whole group of people.
Right, and and if you look, and I love this about it because if you look at the fence, see how clear the fence is.
Oh yeah.
We're not dealing with a motion blur of any sort there. It's really kind of interesting.
Oh yeah.
But it's considered one of the best photos of a portal type situation ever captured.
Oh.
But there was nothing going in, and what was strange is I was trying to flush it out, whatever it was, because it was one of those things. And there was people in every room in the house, and then I had people outside. That was taken outside. Inside the house inside, and there's an audio tape of this somewhere where I'm watching the temperature rise in the house. It rose to above 90 degrees.
Oh my God.
And it's interesting that photo we had the fire kind of look to it.
Oh, yeah. I think those are energy streaks. I did a show on that, but where they come from, I have no idea. And they seem to be kind of like the same image.
Right.
There's three of them. One actually looks like a baby off to the side, but they're more or less the same image. But there's three of them, which is really strange.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is one freaky picture, Stephen.
Yeah, and it's and that was when I remember when we got that, I was like, this is something that is going to get the church to really back us down and really get the help we needed. And it really kind of did, but it was a little bit too late, at that point. That was near the end.
So what was after you did your paranormal investigation and you gathered your evidence and EVPs, what's the outcome? What can you say about it?
No, it was, things went really, really bad very, very quickly. I was having horrible nightmares that were following me. I was having blackout periods. Helen was even worse off than I was. She was actually, at one point, she was homicidal and suicidal. So it just simply, we just got away from it. And even after that, it still followed us for a number of years afterward. There's know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, it didn't have the happy ending. It affected us for years to come afterwards. And as a matter of fact, it affected me all the way up until 2011 when I was going into the hospital. I was going in for open heart surgery. And the week before that open heart surgery, we would walk into the kitchen of another apartment, and we would find all the cabinet doors open, the drawers open, and we would find all my butcher knives lined up in the middle of the kitchen floor in a line.
Oh my God.
And I thought at that point, when I went in for that surgery, I thought, okay, I'm not coming home. I mean, I think maybe that was its intent.
Oh.
But I did die on the table, and I was dead for 38 seconds. And which doesn't seem like long when you say 38 seconds, but when you're dead, it's forever. But when I came back from that, and after that surgery, though,
Do you remember?
I was never affected again. I mean, it pretty much is gone now.
Do you remember what happened to you? Did you remember seeing any lights or anything?
I don't remember the lights. My memory starts at when I was coming back to my body. The falling in the blackness and it not being unpleasant, almost like a floating kind of feeling, except when I hit my body. When I went back into my body, it was with a slam. It hurt.
Ooh.
It hurt. When I went back into my body, I can remember that. And the funny thing is the thought I had right after it happened, you know, because it was like, boom, it hurt. I mean, top to bottom hurt. And I remember thinking to myself, I know why babies cry when they're born. It hurts.
Oh my God.
And then I woke up, and when I woke up, it was it was in ICU, and I had the breathing tube down my throat and everything, so I shouldn't have been awake at that point. And they had to put me back out, but.
Oh my God. So it followed you, but now you're not having any problems ever since that incident. You're not having.
I went through a period during this day at the hospital. The last real big major paranormal thing I can tell you is I had an old nun that would visit my bedside every day and ask me to pray with her.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I would pray with the nun, but it was really strange because nobody seemed to notice her. They would come in and they would talk to me while the nun was praying, and I would be like, "I'm praying," you know. And it was like I was in the hospital for a long time because I had died. I had what they call a cabbage, which is like a 5-way bypass, and then I also had a punctured lung in the process.
Oh my God.
So I was really ill, and so about the 8th day that I was in the hospital, the nun came in and she was praying with me, and my mother was in next to me in a little sitting area in my room, and I asked her to come over to the bed. She came over to the bed, and I said, "Do you see the nun, don't you, Mom?" And she looked at me and she said, "What nun?" And the nun that was praying, she stopped. She smiled, walked to the door, turned around, looked at me, smiled once more, walked out the door, and I never saw her again.
Oh my God. Oh my.
And that's how it ended.
Oh wow.
And you know, and the thing is and I've talked to a lot of different people. I've talked to I've even talked to priests. A lot of people think that its goal was to kill me to begin with, and it wanted me dead, and that was the goal, and it got what it wanted. So during that process of dying, I was able to get the proverbial monkey off my back, I guess.
Oh my God.
And so it was kind of like a rebirth. And the sign of the nun, I believe in. And the thing is the strangest thing is I'm not a Catholic at all. I'm a good Protestant boy. I'm not a Catholic at all. And, but the nun was there, and the nun was a religious sign to let me know things were okay. I'm sure of it.
That's amazing. What about your children? Are they affected at all?
Of course, it took a while putting them back together. I mean, it took a while to give them security. We went through a lot. they're doing really well. They're all very well adjusted and living very good, normal lives now.
But there's no problems with any ghosts or entities or paranormal.
There's little things that come in and out, but I have a feeling with my youngest son, who still lives with me. I think with him, he was probably, it seemed to draw to him to begin with first. I think he's probably he's gifted a little bit in that way. Things do seem to surround him a little bit, but nothing of that magnitude or threatening of any nature anymore like that.
So then you wrote "Blessed Are the Wicked," and what is that book about? Is that about the haunting at that house?
Well, the Uninvited goes to 2005. Blessed Are the Wicked covers 2005 to 2000, and actually all the way up to 2013. And I wasn't going to write it. I wasn't going to write The Uninvited, by the way. They had to talk me into it. And Blessed was the same way. Blessed was really a hard book to write because there was a lot of personal tragedy involved with it. So, but there was, I went ahead and there was a woman in Louisiana named Marie Pitt, and she was a psychic, and nobody, she wasn't a famous psychic or anything, probably was the most psychic woman I've ever met in my life, though. 80-something years old, and she was a fan of the book, of The Uninvited, and she was like, honey, you need to write another book. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. She goes, you need to tell the rest of the story. And I told her no, and she kept bothering me about it. You need to write that book, honey. So one day I sat down and I started to write it. It took me like 3 years to write the book. It really did. And it was because there was so much in it that was so hard to write that I would have to stop and walk away. But every time I would stop writing and I would walk away from the book and say, no, I'm done with this, I would get a phone call and it'd be Marie Pitt. She could say to me, how's that book coming, honey? And I would say to her, well, it's too tough. I don't know if I can do it. I don't want to relive it again. And she would say, well, life's hard, honey. Write that book. And the interesting thing is I finished the book 2 weeks before her death.
Oh.
The book's dedicated to her. She never got to read it. But, and she was right. There was a healing that came with the book.
Oh.
And Blessed Are the Wicked, I mean, the title sounds kind of scary. People think the title's scary, but it has nothing to do with anything scary other than the fact of coming down to the end of it and realizing that I had to forgive everything bad that ever happened so I could move on. So, at one point it literally was a conscious, I forgive those who hate me, hit me, beat me, hurt me, and I forgive the demon that tried to destroy me. Blessed are the wicked. And that's where the title comes from. It's the realization of forgiveness that I had to do to let myself heal.
So what are you doing now? Are you helping people?
Yes.
You are helping people. What role are you playing now in this?
I'm more of a consultant now. You will rarely ever see me on case, unless I have to be, because I'm not so. It's the easiest thing I can tell you. I had to die to get it off my back one time. I don't need it on there again.
Mm-hmm.
But people call me, and I'll direct them to help. I have no problem doing that because I know what it's like to need help and not have anybody there to help you. And that's how I got in trouble, because I started to help myself. And I remember Helen. I remember the day we came to the conclusion that it was going to have to be us to do it, because we had some people in, and we had people people come in and out. And Helen we were sitting on the front porch of the house, and she looked at me and she was crying. And she goes, we have people come in and they'll tell us, we'll hear from them, and they take the evidence and run, and the next thing the evidence is out there for everybody You know, and at that point, it became clear to me that we were going to have to do it ourselves.
Well,
there was nobody else that was there to do it for us at that point.
I have people often contacting me that have issues, and that they need help. And how would somebody contact you for help? Off of your website?
Yeah, if they go to the website, there's a contact tab there. They need to just go to the contact tab and, you know, just contact me through there. It was funny because, you know, people, when they finally heard about what had happened to us and what we were going through, it's like all of a sudden people started reaching out to us, you know, and it was, I guess, you know, they felt comfortable with us because they knew that we had been through a lot of the same type things. And so I found myself in this role of helping people, which is great. I never want to see a child go through anything like that again. I mean, if I can make one child sleep a little bit better,
mm-hmm.
and keep that from happening, I don't want to ever see what happened to my children happen to some other child.
The other houses that were surrounding that home, I guess it's a block of houses. Mm-hmm. Did anybody else have?
It's the whole side of town.
Oh.
It's the whole side of that town. I mean, you go to that town, and people, one of the things that they talk about is the omnipresent oppression, heavy feeling of the place.
The whole town?
Oh, the older part of the town, yeah. It's a whole half of the town,
well,
the older section. It's depressing. You feel it. You feel it. And the closer you get to that house, the more you feel it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, can't they do something about blessing the land or do something with the land?
Well, as long as she won't have it done, the landlord, I mean, there's not much anybody can do.
But what about outside of that house?
Outside of it, yeah, I mean, yeah, they could if they wanted to. Any of the other people that live there, I guess.
Doesn't anybody care?
Go ahead and go down that road. I would suggest it if I was living there. I would, you know, I never lived, and I still don't live in something that hasn't been blessed since.
So when you move into an apartment or a house or whatever, you always have it blessed?
Yeah, and I mean, my house now, I bought my house now. This is the funny thing, is we pulled up in front of the house, and I bought it last year.
Oh, good for you.
It's 100 years old.
Oh, no.
But it's not haunted.
Oh.
But we pulled up in front of it, and I got out, and I looked at the house, and I looked at the real estate agent, and I said, "You must be joking." And she goes, "No, this is the perfect house for you." Well, it looks like the Amityville.
Oh.
You know, and it's in the neighborhood where the St. Louis exorcism played. And I'm like, this is a joke. This is a joke. It has to be a joke. But the house is great. You know, we were haunted people at that point. So.
Wow. Now the third book that's coming out, Stephen. What's that all about?
Well, in 2005, I was investigating. I got interested in the case a long time ago. Actually, 1993 was when I first started researching it, even before I was in the paranormal. The 1949 St. Louis exorcism. In 2005, I was researching it for the fact of I thought it might give me some clues and answers to how to help myself and the others that were going through what we were going through, because Helen was thrown into a pretty deep possession, and we needed help. So I started looking in, and then I actually investigated some locations the church took to, and one of the locations has never been shared before.
gosh.
And it will have evidence that's never been shared before.
Oh
in the
my
case.
God.
I'm going to bust that case wide open when I tell people what I know.
Oh my God. Will you come?
You guys are going to be shocked.
Oh, will you come back on my show and we'll do a show on it?
Absolutely.
Oh
Absolutely. Because there's been a lot of smoke screens put up and a lot of misinformation put out about that case. And the truth behind that case is more frightening than you could ever imagine.
Oh my God.
And as far as the Screaming House case in 2012, the Catholic Church put out a 156-page report calling the Screaming House haunting demonic infestation, oppression, obsession, and possession.
And
which I don't have to tell you how rare that is.
wow. And it still is. Because that landlord won't do anything about it. That's really...
Won't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And, and the thing is what got me is after going public with everything, which was a hard decision to make because, there's all kinds of fears that you deal with that. But the people that have come forward, all of the different families that were there before that had things happen to them, and the families afterwards that had things happen to them, and the stories of what they had to tell about, one gentleman was waking up in the morning and he would have bite marks up his calves of his legs. There was a little girl that liked to sew, and she walked in her bedrooms and the pins from her pin cushion went into her face.
Oh my.
This is the kind of place that we're talking about. It's violent in every way. So, to hear their stories, I think in some ways the time we spent in the house, we were actually pretty lucky that we got out as lucky as we did, I guess.
Yeah. One of the viewers said, yes, Lynn, it is. It's the Screaming House case. They call it the Screaming House.
Yes.
Okay, I have to ask you. When that video came out. Oh, do you want to say anything else about your haunting before I ask you this other question?
No, we pretty much covered that.
Okay, I'm dying to know. I absolutely...
All the details you guys can read in the books.
Oh, yeah. Where can they get the books?
Oh, the books are... you can get the books anywhere. Anywhere books are sold worldwide. Oh. And you can even get them in French.
Oh. All right, I'm dying to ask you about Children of the Grave. I absolutely... I as soon as that came out and I saw it, I bought the DVD. I played it so many times. I absolutely love that DVD. How did you get involved in that?
It was strange because, right after the 2005, right after the Screaming House case there, I wanted the group wanted to do something, and I didn't think we needed to go visit a haunting. So I picked urban legend, and I thought, well, let's prove this urban legend wrong, that it's that it is an urban legend. And so I picked Zombie Road. And because I had heard the whispers and the inklings about it, and I thought, well, let's go prove this, that this road could not possibly be haunted.
It's called the Zombie Road?
Yeah, Zombie Road,
yeah.
Yes. So I took the team out there, and we walked in Zombie Road, and we were going to do it at night with flashlights and stuff. And I thought that it would be the idea was it would be a walk. It was fall, kind of night, It'd be kind of creepy, but, it really would be harmless. But it was more, I got to tell you, from day one that we entered Zombie Road, it was more like the Blair Witch Project than anything.
Oh, my God.
And so word got out, that we were doing this research on this road and these things were happening. And so they came to us because they were doing the film. I was actually one of the writers on the film, too, by the way.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. I not only had a starring role, I was one of the writers as well.
Oh.
And so they came to us and said, would you want to do this? And we said, sure. And we did it. And the thing is, the cool thing about it is the Zombie Road footage, I think, still holds up as some of the best shadow figure footage ever captured.
It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. But the story was about these orphanages, right? With this where the kids. What was the story on that?
Well, the story was, the children were the orphans and how they were treated. They were treated like numbers. They weren't even treated like humans. In that day and age, and a lot of what has happened in the mass graves that they're buried in, and in the places where they were abused, are haunted. And we're finding that there's a lot of hauntings surrounding this orphan phenomenon. So we travel to orphanages and places of that nature to show the different hauntings that are surrounding this, and to tell the story of the orphan and what they went through. And one of the most poignant scenes of the film, and I still think it is to this day, was an older woman that had had her Raggedy Ann doll taken away from her. And as an old woman, she was handed back the doll much later. It wasn't the same doll, obviously, but a Raggedy Ann.
That was in the on the DVD, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in the DVD if you ever see the DVD. But
yeah.
It just shows that emotional moment. Just shows that at the moment she's handed the doll, she turns back into a child.
Oh.
And see the little girl in this 80-something-year-old woman. And I thought, and I think, anytime that you can do something and give a social message of some sort and make people feel and understand, we need to understand history, or we're doomed to repeat it.
I'm surprised that those buildings were still standing.
Yeah, exactly. But they're still there. They're still there. And with Zombie Road, there's just a tremendous amount of tragedy that surrounds that road. And it seems to be directed at children, a lot of drownings and stuff like that. And,
why did they call it Zombie Road?
Well, because there's a couple different things that it could be. In the DVD, we talk about the insane asylum and the killer zombie who would come out of the insane asylum at night and kill people, and that's supposedly why they got the name Zombie Road. Now, he actually did exist, but we don't know if his name was Zombie or not. However, I do know, talking to a number of the teenagers that were teenagers in the early 70s, they'll tell you, remember the old George Romero Night of the Living Dead had been out.
Uh-huh.
And the kids wanted to party. Well, the road was called Lawler Ford Road, and it was pretty deserted because it was only used for trucks to go down to get the pea gravel from the river, obviously. And so the kids would go down to the road and they would party or whatever. And they didn't know what the parents to know where they were going, so the code word was, let's go to Zombie Road. I'll meet you at Zombie Road.
Oh. They tell you today to stay away from that road, that it's very dangerous.
It was. When we filmed, what was funny is you didn't get to see how dangerous the road was. There's a lot of the dangerous footage is not shown. Because there was times when we were walking on cliffs and there were 20-foot drops we were jumping across.
Oh my God!
Overnight, yeah. It was really dangerous. But since then, the city of Wildwood has created a new trail there, the Al Foster Trail, and it goes all the way up through there, and it's a really nice trail now. That goes through Zombie Road in that area.
I had read that it was dangerous because of the people that were lurking in those woods and the satanic rituals and
right.
stuff.
Well, you're not allowed to go in there at night. If you're caught in, if you got a half hour past sunset to get out of there.
Oh my God!
If you're caught in Zombie Road a half hour past sunset, the fine can be anywhere upwards of $1,000.
Is it because of that?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of that type thing. Doing interviews of people when I was doing the research of the road and everything that had happened there, there's stories out there of people finding dead animals and different satanic symbols and blood and black robe people and yeah.
Well, if they know that's going on, why don't they do anything about it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's still going on now. I imagine they keep a
Well, I absolutely love that DVD. It was a wonderful job on that. I hadn't seen I don't think I saw the Possessed, but they show those on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Sci-Fi Chiller will run them. You can also see them on Amazon Prime, Vimeo, and I hear that there's even a possibility they could be coming to Redbox soon.
Awesome. Well, will you ever do anything again with the Booth Brothers?
It's hard to say. I mean, we did a lot together. I worked on Children of the Grave, The Possessed, Children of the Grave 2. I did some location work for them on that. Some of my Exorcist research went into Haunted Boy. I mean, we've done things together through the years. Philip and I live in the same city. We're really close friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I don't know if we'll ever do anything again, but it was what it was when it was, I guess.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. Yes. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for being my guest tonight. It was such a pleasure. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you on my show. And when your book comes out next year, I'm hoping that you will come back on my show. I'm going to write this down. And
absolutely. We got a lot to talk about.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Stephen. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Wow. That was so awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining me tonight. Thank you, Stephen, again for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you and hear your story. And don't forget about Stephen's books. That Uninvited has been critically acclaimed. It is highly recognized, and everybody loves that book. So if you want to get that, you know where you can get it. Anywhere on Amazon or any of just search it out on Google+. But thanks everyone again for being here. It was I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's see, next week. All right, next week, Kelly Lapsaratus. I don't know if you remember, I had her husband, Kiwani Lapsaratus, who communicates with Bigfoot. Well, Kelly, she does communicate with Bigfoot as well, but she also communicates with interdimensional beings. So she will be my guest next week, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be very interesting. And on September 24th, I have Mark Potts coming, and he did investigations on Jack the Ripper and the Zodiac. And so he's going to talk about those two serial killers and what their connection is. So that's going to be interesting as well. Everybody, you know what? Is Dave Spink still in the chat room? Dave is coming to California. He's coming to my house. And Anthony Sanchez as well. Anthony only lives about an hour and a half from me. And they're coming here tomorrow, and we are going to go to some haunted locations. And is Dave still in the chat? Oh, did you guys all get my email as well about the show reminder? So anyway, Dave's coming. We're going to go to some haunted locations. Oh, Dave, yeah, did you tell them where we were going? And I think Dave's gonna. I think we're gonna go live on some of the locations. Oh, thanks, Royce. Oh, yeah. Thank you. All right, so let me do some shout outs. Yeah. Oh, you did tell them. Okay, it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to this, and where we're going tomorrow night. Oh my God, it's going to be so awesome. I can't wait. Let me do shout outs. Meg Berry, F Warrior, Dave, my buddy, Country Roads, Jen LL, Alexandria Violet, Nick Douglas, Anita Ackerman, Jesse Machuca, yay, Spooky Raven, my friend, Janet W, Meg Berry, Chippa Terry, Jamelia Castile, Nebit Seda, Cherry Matabalano, Royce, Perry Princess Patricia, Griffin. Hey, Griffin. Yes, a shout out to Griffin Cochran. Pumpkinhead Paranormal, Margarita Harvorth, Renee Rates, Mary Dallas, Stella Simpson, Lily. Hi, Lily. Carrie Y. Miss. Oh my God. Why? Miss Nualata, Scowling Wolf, Putty Tat. Janice Phillips. I know Ginger was in earlier. Troy's Magic Music. Richard Ratcliffe. Hi, Richard. Michael Banks. Hi, Michael. Nicole Burnett. Hi. Tiffany Twisted. Anybody else? We had 90 people tonight. Big crowd. Lynn Bowling. Anybody else want to shout out? His Highness Penny Walton. Yvonne Bessett. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Spooky. Tomorrow night, I don't have... Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yes. I'm so excited about tomorrow night. Hippie hugs with love, Michelle. Anybody else want to shout out? Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. Stephen LaChance is an excellent speaker. I love listening to him. Anybody else want to shout out? And of all times, my air conditioner goes out. I can't believe it. And it's 102. It's going to be 102 tomorrow. Yes, Royce, thank you. Thanks, everyone. And so looking forward to tomorrow night. Dave will be in charge of that, and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a good time. Saturday and Sunday, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yep, 3 haunted locations. You're welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Good night. Have a wonderful weekend, and hope you'll be with us tomorrow night. Oh, thanks, Spooky. Thank you, dear. All right, so I'm gonna go and oh, hi, Carl. Hi, Carl White. I'm sweating. Yeah, it's hot. You know, it's and with these lights, it's really hot in here. I might have to take everybody out to dinner tomorrow night. We'll have to go to the pizza place right up the street instead of having pizza at my house. It's going to be too damn hot. Have a beer and pizza and salad, Dave. What do you think? Oh yeah, good. Okay. Oh, Dorrit Smith. Hi. Anybody else want a shout out? Oh, we're going to have fun, Carrie. I can't wait. All right. Oh, okay. Griffin wants me to say Kelly. I think that's Griffin's girlfriend. Hi, Kelly. Love, Arizona. Amanda Steele. Oh, okay, Sherry. Too bad you can't join us tomorrow night. Pizza and beer. Yay. All right, I'm going to go, and everybody have a safe and wonderful weekend. I hope it's Kelly Griffin. Oh, Kelly Griffin. Kelly Griffin is Griffin Cochran's girlfriend. Hi, Kelly. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much as always. It's so nice to see you all in the chat room and coming to my show every week. We had 90 people today, and it was really awesome. And did you get my email? Did you guys get my email? Thank you, Amanda. Oh, thanks, Royce. Yeah, where we're going tomorrow night, we should be okay. We should be okay with the heat. Okay, did you guys get my email? Let me know. Anybody, let me know if you got my email for the show reminder. Don't forget, you can sign up for show reminders at paranormalzone.tv, and you just go to the little tab that says email. I sent out 78 show reminders. It's growing. So if you want a reminder, if you want a reminder, just fill that out. Dave's gonna post. Dave will post for the show tomorrow night. Oh, you got it. Yay, Patricia, great. Yeah, Dave, it'll be on Dave's channel, not mine. Oh, thanks, Royce, for signing up. Well, Alexandra, if you didn't send an email, look in your spam file. Because they all went out. They all went out. So, Alexandra, look in your spam folder. And, okay, good. Awesome. All right, guys. Michael, did you sign up? Listen, guys. Whoever signs up gets an email. It goes out to everybody on that list. And there were 78 that was mailed out. So, look in your spam. They might have put it in, somebody one day told me it went into their spam folder. So if you didn't get it, I don't know. You could try again and fill out another one, but look in your spam folder, okay? Okay, yeah, look for Dave's post. We'll put it on Google+, we'll put it on Facebook, and so if all goes well, we will have a show tomorrow night at our haunted location. Oh, I'm so excited. All right, so everybody, Spooky Raven. Spooky, can you put in your website? Spooky Raven, look for the advertisement. I advertise for them. They have a show on Tuesdays. Oh my God, and I don't have the information in front of me. They're doing a show on time travel. Spooky, what's the name of your show? Yeah, everybody come back next week for chat. Spooky, what's the name of your show, honey? But they do have a great radio show every Tuesday night. They're doing time travel. Spooky, I know we got a 30-second delay. What is... Spooky, what's the name of your show, honey? Anybody... So anyway, she is Spooky Raven. She's on Google+. Add her to your circles. I will be advertising for your show and also on... Oh, yeah, there it goes. Anything But Ordinary with Spooky and Raven. And so I think it's anythingbutordinary.com. And they have a great show on Tuesday nights. And Spooky, I've known Spooky for years. Good friend of mine. And it's a great show. Love you. Okay, guys, I love all you guys. And thank you so much for being here. So I'm really going to go now. I'm hungry, and we'll see you tomorrow night. It'll be on Dave's channel, Country Roads Paranormal. Dave Spink's Country Roads Paranormal. Yes, that's it. Anything But Ordinary. And the hosts are Spooky and Raven. Yes. Okay, guys. Okay, I'm going to go now, okay? Cool, yeah. Okay, Dave, I'm going to call you. So and yes, Spooky Raven is Raven, and Spooky is her other host. Yes. I love you guys. Okay, I'm going to go. Okay, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here. And I love all you guys. Have a safe weekend. And don't forget, watch for Dave's posting. We're going to be live tomorrow night at a haunted, friggin' awesome location, okay? Good night, everybody. Thank you. Bye. Good night.